Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L and now let's talk some Darling in the Franxx episode 4. This episode came up a few days ago. I am very late to the game. Unfortunately, life happens, things get away from me, but here I am. Here we go. And also my injuries are gone, so now I can speak normally. Anyway, guys, hey, Darling in the Franxx episode 4. Let's just start off by saying thank God that Hiro finally got into the Franxx. Thank God that happened. As you know, last episode I was fearing that there would be 3 more episodes before anything actually happened with the boy, but you know what? If he goes another 2 episodes without getting in that robot, I'll be fine, because at least he's now on the way to being permanently inside that robot. Alright, cool. Very happy. Now, here's the thing. I watched the episode when it came out, and it's already been a few days. My memory is not as pristine as it should be, and unfortunately I didn't take any notes aside from some very critical points that I'm going to elaborate on in the video. Because of that, I'm going to dial back any kind of harshness I might have towards Darling in the Franxx in general, and just try to take it a little bit easier. Let's see, where do I want to start with this episode? Well, one thing that has to definitely be acknowledged is that Darling in the Franxx. The reason I can find so much to talk about with Darling in the Franxx, and this is true to the majority of the Trigger shows, is that there's usually a lot packed into an episode. For instance, this episode of Darling in the Franxx, we cover a lot of ground. We cover ground with Ichigo, we cover ground with 02's role in everything. We cover ground with Hiro's personal development. We cover some ground with the fight going on. We cover some ground with oh man, I forget his name. It's the little munchkin that was freaking out at the very beginning. Mitsuru? I think it's Mitsuru. Anyway, the Darling in the Franxx episodes tend to have a lot of different elements in it, and so it makes for a very nice experience. And then you have the periphery kind of plot stuff, the people coming to collect 02. Because there's so much moving element, it makes for a very engaging episode. And in the case of Trigger, because there's so many moving elements, it opens it up for I think more nuanced discussion, because Trigger in particular has a style that usually involves sacrificing something in order to get something else. And it was very prevalent with Little Witch Academia. It was actually extremely prevalent with Little Witch Academia, because Little Witch Academia changed its tone on an episode by episode basis, so they were constantly rearranging what they were sacrificing. With Darling in the Franxx, they're more commonly sacrificing logic for style, and that's fine. It's just one of those things that you have to appreciate. It's still a really good show, but that's what we're going to be tackling right now, because those are the critical points. And it's very rare to be able to get to do this when it comes to pointing out little perceived inconsistencies. And I'm saying perceived because it really depends on how far a viewer wants to argue it. But let's just get into it, and then we can kind of just finish it up. So the thing that I believe is that when you're wanting to find inconsistencies or plot holes, and I'm saying that with air quotations, when you want to find that, you don't look for the big events. You don't look for those big bombastic moments, because big bombastic moments are usually thought out. You do not want those big events. You want the smaller things. You look for the smaller details, because in the small details, that's where people tend to overlook things. And in this case, this episode kind of presents a few points. Now, the way that this would work with viewers is that if you are a casual viewer, these are the kind of questions that the casual viewer, when they're just sitting down to watch a random episode, they will point it out. And this episode has a very glaring one when it comes to the people who came to collect 02. 02 was greeted by a giant armed escort. There were more than 2 people there standing in front of her, and as we saw, 02 is freaking dangerous. And also, since we're talking about 02 continues to be the highlight of this show, bar none. She is amazing. And also, when she has that little smirk at the end with Ichigo when she's riding with Hiro. Okay, you know what? I'm getting distracted, not the point. Going back, when you have that armed escort, we see that 02 is dangerous because we see her flip a guy. So she leaves with the armed escort. And what happens afterward? After Hiro has his whole heroic moment where he decides what he wants to do. We catch up to 02, and as we see, there's only 2 people escorting her. Where did everyone else go? What are they doing that's more important than escorting the high priority target that is known to be rebellious, that is known to destroy men, that is known to not take orders, that you just saw flip your friend, that you had guns pointed at? Why in the world would you only have 2 people when you came in strong with a room of more than 5? Like, it's things like that, man. Like, that is stupid. Unequivocally stupid. And in the last video, I mentioned incompetence, and someone pointed out in the comments like, yeah, adults being incompetent in anime isn't anything new. But a moment like that, where you go from such a giant room, when you see those people going in to get 02, you have the impression, oh yeah, she's probably that dangerous that it warrants that kind of escort. And then you see it automatically just drop down. Like, look, it's stupid. From the perspective of the characters, you could either argue incompetence, or heck, maybe 02 even knocked them all out on the way when they were walking. Who knows? But from the narrative point of view, it's very simple to see what happened. Trigger just needed there to be 2 people. Trigger doesn't really need more. They need 02 to get away from the escort. So easiest way to do that, just have 02 get away from 2 guys, and then you don't have to put in more effort into drawing the other people there. Oh, actually, I just got really confused. There were 3 people in that scene initially, but look at this. Alright, I think I actually spotted a bit of an error here. We went from 4 to 3, and then strangely, in the last moment, it seems there's only 2. Trigger was playing it very carefully. When you see the way that this is unfolding, like, look at this, right? You have the 3 people here. You can make it out. On one scene, they go up together on a stairway, so you obscure the second person. Okay, fair, but look at this part. We see right in between 02's legs, there's no one in front of her. Where did that third person go? This is an error on Trigger's part. It's just, okay, that's sloppy. This is sloppy now. Trigger, not cool, man, not cool. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. We'll assume there's 3 people there, but the art at certain scenes says otherwise. So I spotted this during editing, so we're gonna go back into the regular flow. I'm going to be referring to 2 people, but just know I'm aware there's 3, and this is a bit of a weird issue. It's just very simple, you get it done. It's just, this is a problem where the context previously established this girl is that much of a threat that warrants this many people coming, and then all of a sudden we just have 2 people. It's one of those little things. Regardless, it helps the narrative along because 02 gets away from them very gracefully, and she runs through with Hiro, and as you see, there is 02 and Hiro's connection as they're walking through all the scanners, which is really adorable. So you see, it's like, but very stupid on the guard's part, and it's really not their fault because it's just, that's how Trigger sets up their scenarios. They want a pretty easy solution just because they need to get the point 02 gets away. If you were a casual viewer with no real sense of anime, chances are you'd sit down, you see that you'd be asking where's all the other people? Where did they go? And mind you, if you wanted to defend this, you would say, well, maybe they were all doing other important things. And then you're like, okay, there's something more important than 02 at this point. You know, it's that kind of thing when it comes to that little sequence. Another sequence that could cause some questions is when they're talking about the people who are coming in. They have a name for that procedure. The procedure is called kissing. And I'll put up the picture with the subtitle there. It's called the kissing procedure. So this calls back to the issue in, I think, episode 2, with Ichigo not knowing what kissing is. Except, right now, this military installation, this military unit just established that they have a procedure that's called kissing. And, you know, first off, let's acknowledge the style. It's Trigger continuing with the sexual metaphors. They just want to throw it up the wazoo. We have plant sexual reproductive parts, and now they're just, you know, you throw everything in. But the thing here is, the girl that's involved in military operations didn't know what kissing was. And I'm pretty sure in this one they used an English word. I don't recall if they said kissing in the same way in the second episode, if it was the Japanese word or the English word, in which case I will forgive that because that's fair. English is weird. But it's just funny that this person involved in military operations doesn't know military jargon, because that seems like a very critical flaw at that point. Again, that's a nitpick, but it's this type of thing that points to just sloppiness in general. Again, it's style over logic is what I really believe, and that's Trigger proves it more than they disprove it. Moving away from those aspects though, let's like praise the episode otherwise, because like those are just like logical points that I would argue, but it doesn't take away from how enjoyable the episode is. Like again, Trigger's been building the Hiro thing up for a very long time, and just seeing him ride. Oh, actually, a very funny thing. It's very funny. When you look at the subtitles, a lot of times they're saying riding with her. I would challenge you to make a drinking game out of every time someone says riding with her. And also another thing, one thing I started doing was whenever I see riding with her, I just take out the with and just say, yeah, Hiro wants to ride her. It's like, yeah, Trigger wants the sexual metaphors, and you know when they're using the whatever word translates into riding, you know that they're getting a little bit of a laugh out of that. Anyway, not the point. That's just something I do to make the episode more enjoyable for myself. But humor aside from the whole riding with her thing, I do like it when Hiro finally connects with 02 and he's saying that he can't feel where he ends and she begins. Which again, it's funny. It's funny considering. But it was a fulfilling moment. It was fulfilling because this is the kid we've been following. We've seen his struggles, and it's just like, I'm happy for you, kid. And then they go through and they have the fight. They battle out with the worm, and we have the awesome epic 02 smiling at Ichigo. You know when she's smiling like that, she's smiling like that because she just won. She got the boy. She doesn't care. She just won. Hiro wants to ride with her. As far as 02 is concerned, she just got the victory, and Ichigo should be bothered about that. But I really enjoyed that sequence. I enjoyed that Trigger went and added that extra little detail. I love the smile on the robot. I really like the look, and this is one of those points where having the robot to be so emotive really works out. I really enjoyed it. Other points I want to touch on, not really much else with the fight. Let's go back a little bit to Ichigo. Ichigo at the very beginning was talking about she has to be more responsible, that she's going to do better as a leader, but she needs her team to do better. That was great. That is competent. How can you not like competence, even if it's just words at this point? She's trying. She's making an effort. She knows that what she did was a tactical mistake. And seeing this kind of effort to grow, I do appreciate it. And I think competent characters, I can now confidently say, when it comes to our main characters, at least, the incompetence isn't going to be as annoying as it could be. Moving on into another point, I think there's one more thing and I'm just forgetting. I'm just going to quickly glance through the episode to see if I spot a scene with it. Oh, we had 02 in the bath with Hiro, which was a nice little reversal on how they first met. I liked what Trigger was doing there with the image. You know what? It has something to do with the imagery that Trigger was invoking. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm thinking. Something went on. Oh, right. Now I remember. I remember now. I just saw Hiro's face. It was, it's another point about style versus logic. And in this case, it was where emotion trumps the very, very dire circumstances. So it's about halfway through the episode where, 02 and Hiro kind of just have their emotional crisis while Hiro's friends are all in the, in kind of in danger's way and almost dying. It's just funny, okay? All of a sudden, you have the robots, they're in a really dire situation, the worm is just too hard for them. Meanwhile, you have Hiro over there having a very, very critical moment with his feelings. Like, again, if you played with the riding with her, you made it riding her, he's like, Hiro's having a big emotional issue because like he's strong, he wants to get with a girl, he wants to go ride a girl, and he's having this emotional issue while his friends are in death's way. Like, his friends are going to die any second. He can take time to just look down on himself and just really think about what he wants to do. It's just funny. It's funny that you will have a break from very dangerous action to go focus on his feelings. But this is, again, a style versus I don't even want to call this logic. That's not style versus logic. This is just a stylistic choice in general. It's funny. It's funny. Hiro's a very introspective character, and it's just... Again, it's funny when you break from the action to just go deal with his feelings. Again, if it was a casual viewer, that kind of moment, you're going to find the silliness in it. And the reason I'm bringing up casual viewers a lot is because I had a casual friend, a casual viewer watching with me. He just kind of jumped in for that one episode. And these are the kind of questions people will ask. And it's just, yeah, you know, anime's weird. And a lot of times anime is very introspective. And unfortunately, introspection can happen anytime. And it's just a nice break from fights. That said, it's not a bad thing. It's not something you could take away from Darling in the Franxx. It's just how Darling in the Franxx does things in particular, and it's still very enjoyable. Just questionable and funny. Anyway, I think that covers the main points that I wanted to talk about for this episode. Again, Darling in the Franxx is just one of the nicest shows I'm following this season. I really enjoy it. And just trying to think if there's any other little thing that I really want to point out. Like, we covered a little bit with Hiro and her going through portals, or sorry, barriers by being close together. There was also little things with her horns that she pokes she pokes Hiro's foreheads with horns. I thought it was a nice little detail. And Nana, I think is her name, continues to just be annoying and ineffective. Like, man, I swear. Thank God for 02. Holy, I don't know how I would survive this without the girl. Anyway, let's call it there. Guys, let me know what you thought down below. And yeah, till next time. I hope you have a great day. And also, thanks to the guys that commented last time on the video. Just always nice to have that. Anyway, yeah, guys, let's call it. Till next time. Hope you have a great day. I will try my hardest to get the next one out on time. Unfortunately, Saturdays are very busy days. You know, what can you do?